The American soccer system is producing talent at a rate that we've never seen before, with American players joining some of the biggest clubs in the world and youth prospects emerging on almost a weekly basis. It's easy to understand why American soccer fans are optimistic about the future. So what's stopping the United States from becoming a world soccer power? It's probably not what you think. All that and more on this episode of the Yank Report. What's up, guys? My name is Sam. This is the Yank Report, the show where we talk about the U.S. men's national team. If you're into that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It helps out the video, and be nice to each other in the comment section. Let's get into it. First, what is a world soccer power? For me, a world soccer power would be a nation that has a reasonable chance of winning a World Cup. Now, that cuts things down rather quickly. There are only a few nations that are reasonably considered favorites to win a World Cup in 2022. According to the Vegas Insider World Cup betting odds, the chance of winning significantly drops off from the number 9 team in the world to the number 10 team in the world. So considering the top 9 teams in the world is a reasonable start. And this drop-off is not an accident. If we look at the World Cup format, the tournament starts with a large group stage and then begins cutting the competition in half with knockout rounds consisting of a round of 16, an 8-team quarterfinal, a 4-team semifinal, and a 2-team final. So to reduce it down, a world soccer power is a nation that is a favorite to reach the World Cup quarterfinals, one of the top 8 teams in the world. Now, just to clarify, I'm not saying that every team that reaches the quarterfinals is a world soccer power. Cinderella stories do happen every World Cup. The U.S. even managed to make it to the quarterfinal in 2002. A world soccer power would be a favorite to reach the quarterfinal. This is good news. In our history, the U.S. has made the round of 16 several times. Making the jump from a round of 16 team to a quarterfinal team can't be all that difficult, right? Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. While it's true that the U.S. has routinely been favorites to reach the round of 16, that may not be a true indication of the U.S.'s standing in world soccer. Remember that the World Cup is not the 32 best teams in the world. It's the 32 best teams from different regions around the world. Some regions, like Europe and South America, routinely have highly rated teams that fail to qualify. If we look at the current ELO rankings, the U.S. is sitting at number 24. And P.S. Sure, the U.S. rates higher in the FIFA rankings, but the FIFA rankings are screwy, so we're not going to use them. There are a lot of reasons for this, but this is not a what's wrong with the FIFA rankings video. You can look into that in your own time. So the U.S. is number 24 in the ELO rankings. This is not a huge surprise. The U.S. has been in the top 20-ish for the last decade or so. But if we look further at the rankings, we can see several teams ahead of the U.S. that failed to qualify for 2022. Ukraine, Italy, Peru, and Colombia each have a higher ELO ranking than the U.S., but have failed to qualify. With teams ahead of the U.S. failing to qualify, it gives the U.S. a better opportunity to reach the round of 16. But that advantage does not necessarily get us closer to being one of the 8 best teams in the world. So now that we know where we actually stand compared to the rest of the world, let's take a closer look at what it takes to be a world soccer power. If we examine the current top 9 Vegas Insider favorites to win the 2022 World Cup, Germany, Portugal, Netherlands, England, France, Belgium, Spain, and Brazil, we begin to see a number of similarities. The rosters for each nation boast some of the best players in the world at their respective positions, playing some of the best teams in the world. There is a solid mixture of players in their prime, veterans, and exciting young players. The competition for roster spots is fierce, and often these nations have very good players that do not make the team. Comparing a top 15 team like Uruguay or Switzerland to a top 8 team like England or Argentina, it's easy to spot the difference in quality. Both Switzerland and Uruguay have truly elite players playing at elite clubs, but their squads are anchored by quality professionals at quality clubs. England and Argentina, on the other hand, can fill out an entire lineup with elite players and still have elite players on the bench. That's the difference. That's what separates very good national teams from world powers. Now, let's compare some of these elite teams to the U.S. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be your #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports development, including this year's basketball championship finals, the NHL hockey conference finals, Major League Baseball, and the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts. And let's be nice about it. We're not going to choose one of the best 3 teams. We'll choose one of the squads that's in the 8 to 9 position, according to the Vegas Insider odds. So let's go with Portugal. The first major difference that jumps out is the age difference. The U.S. men's national team is unique as one of the youngest national teams in the world. Portugal, on the other hand, has a number of players in the primes of their careers, along with a couple of veterans in Pepe at 39 and Ronaldo at 37, and a couple of young players trying to break in like Nuno Mendes at 20 and David Carmo at 22. Portugal has some elite players throughout their lineup. Cristiano Ronaldo will get the headlines, but Diego Jota, Bernardo Silva, and Bruno Fernandes all play big roles with some of the biggest clubs in the world. And likewise, the rest of Portugal's lineup is filled with players that feature at clubs like AC Milan, PSG, Manchester City, and RB Leipzig. It's a very strong side. The US men's national team, on the other hand, does not feature any superstars. The closest player we have to that is Christian Pulisic, a player that, while featuring at one of the best clubs in the world, is more of a role player than a star at this point. Weston McKennie at Juventus is in that same vein. Tyler Adams at RB Leipzig, now Leeds, and Serginho Dest at Barcelona are more or less squad players for their clubs. The core of the US lineup are players at medium to small size European clubs like Tim Weah at Lille, Yunus Musa at Valencia, Brendan Aronson at RB Salzburg, now Leeds, and Jedi Robinson at Fulham. To round up the lineup, the lack of depth is truly exposed, with a number of MLS players being relied upon at key positions, as well as young players still trying to break through in Europe. The U.S. men's national team's European core represents an improvement for the U.S. men's national team compared to previous iterations of the team, but it's pretty clear that there's still a tremendous difference between the quality and depth of the current U.S. men's national team lineup and the elite teams in the world, or the top 15 teams for that matter. So the U.S. is not a world soccer power. Sorry to burst bubbles, but I think we already knew that. This video is not about how good is this team right now. This video is about how good can this team be. And that's where things begin to look optimistic. As we've established, the U.S. has one of the youngest national teams in the world, with a handful of players that can potentially reach superstar status. The real question is whether or not the U.S. can continue developing elite prospects at a reliable rate. As of right now, things are looking good. In the last few decades, there's been a concerted effort in the United States to invest in youth development. Starting with the U.S. Soccer Development Academy and now MLS Next, there are pathways to professional soccer that never existed before in this country, and that investment is beginning to pay off. Players like Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Gio Reyna, Chris Richards, Josh Sargent all participated in development academy clubs. And that was only the beginning. In the past few years, MLS has reinvented itself as a selling league, with players like Ricardo Pepi, Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, Jean-Luc Abusio, Tanner Tessman, and Brian Reynolds being sold on to Europe. And while not all of these prospects will become national team stars, the funds from these transfers are being reinvested in youth development to produce even more prospects. And the pipeline is not bare. The recent US U20 squad's dominating performance in the CONCACAF Championship showed us that even while missing marquee names like Wolfsburg's Kevin Paredes, Hoffenheim's Justin Shea, Real Madrid and Chelsea transfer target Gaga Slonina, Real Sociedad's Jonathan Gomez, or senior team member Ricardo Pepi, the US still managed to not only win decisively, but display a level of technical and tactical ability that we are just not used to seeing from US youth national teams. The U.S. is continuing to pump out prospects at a rate approaching the type of level you would need to become a world soccer power. And the incredibly optimistic part is there is still so much room for growth. MLS and USL continue to expand, and with each new franchise comes a new academy system broadening the academy web and offering a path to professional soccer to areas of the country that never had one before. Newer teams like Austin, Nashville, Cincinnati, and Charlotte will need time for their academies to get up and running and begin bearing fruit, but this opportunity for growth is something that more mature soccer nations just don't have. They don't have untapped resources, the US does. And with each passing year, the game is only growing in popularity in the United States. That growth means more fans, more money coming into the coffers for MLS, USL, and US soccer, and more kids pursuing soccer as their main sport. This is a big deal because a strong league in the United States means being one of the strongest leagues in the world. The US is the world's biggest sports market. The NBA, MLB, and NFL are the richest sports leagues in the world. The NFL, despite not having nearly the same international appeal as the English Premier League, earns 3 times more money per year than the EPL. The room for growth of soccer in the United States is enormous. Which brings us back around to the main question. What's stopping the US from becoming a world soccer power? In a word, time. Time for our current crop of stars like Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie to hit their primes. Time for the next wave of prospects to emerge. Time for new academies to begin producing prospects, and time for the game to just grow in this country. I know that that's kind of anticlimactic. I know everyone wants a magic bullet solution that will instantly turn the US into Brazil, but there's no quick fixes. There's no mystical formation or incredible coach that will suddenly turn the US into world beaters. But time can. If the United States can maintain its current rate of player development, it can become a world soccer power over the next 12 years. If the sport in this country continues to grow and the US can exceed its current rate of player development, well, look out. The Yanks are coming. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, supporting the channel. You can become a member. The member section has perks and directly supports the channel. If you're interested in this Man in the Mirror shirt I'm wearing, it's going to be going on sale on the Since 76 store in the next few days, depending on when you're watching this video. Remember, the Since 76 store, we release shirts in short windows, so you can only buy it during that window. After that window, it won't be available, so make sure that you're tuned into the social media for Since 76 apparel, that you join the mailing list on the website so that you're going to get notifications whenever these things go on sale and you don't miss them. If you want the Yank Report in podcast form, you can get the Yank Report podcast anywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. Si puede hablar español, dígame un comentario en español. Guys, my Spanish has gotten so much better over the course of doing this. It's been pretty incredible, and a lot of the thanks to that goes to you guys leaving comments in Spanish and me being able to read those comments, and if I struggle with a word, I can look it up, stuff like that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our Tier 2 members, Manuel Oliveras, Mike Irish, Matthew Hanna, Matthew Doyle, and Christopher Matassa. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Sam, and this is the Yank Report brought to you by Bet Online.